What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Steven Spielberg film, Ready Player One. Ready Player One is directed by Steven Spielberg, stars Ty Sheridan, Mark Rylance, and Ben Mendelsohn, and is based on the bestseller written by Ernest Cline. It tells the story of a dystopian future, 2045 to be exact, where the real world is a harsh and sort of unfulfilling place to live, so everyone escapes to this virtual reality world called the Oasis that was created by this man named James Halliday. However, Halliday died in 2040, and now in 2045 people are still searching for this massive Easter egg that he left in the game that would grant the person that finds it all of his wealth. They would get all of his wealth of the Oasis, all of his money, all of the power, and they would literally be a massive powerhouse in the world. And Ty Sheridan plays a young kid named Wade, whose on-screen name is Percival, and his goal is to find this Easter egg so he can change his life, because he's living sort of this low-income life in what's called the Stacks in Columbus, Ohio, and he's not very fulfilled or happy. So him and his friends are searching for these Easter eggs, these keys that will eventually lead them to this massive wealth. Now, the biggest thing about this movie is the effects in it are absolutely amazing. I wasn't really knowing what to expect going into it because the film sort of looks like it's fully an animated movie when you're not in the real life sequences, and it is, but it looks real enough. And I think that's the thing that's so interesting, is it purposefully still looks like a video game, but it looks so much better than what you would expect from a video game. And I really appreciated that. I think the effects really helped build the Oasis, because the Oasis genuinely looks like the coolest thing ever in this movie. The way that they show it off, they showcase all the different characters, all the nostalgia and pop culture and everything, it looks so awesome. And the way that they talk about it, the love that every single character has for the Oasis, I think is such a beautiful showcase of the way a lot of people feel about video games and pop culture in real life, and I really loved that about the movie. It also obviously has a ton of really cool action inside the Oasis. We get fun action sequences that sort of take place during the trials, along with the big massive action sequence that everyone's seen in the trailers that happens at the end, and I really thought that that was awesome. The amount of licenses that they had to obtain to put all of the different characters that are in this movie in the movie is absolutely bonkers, and I loved seeing all of them, because I think that's the beauty of this movie, is that if you have that connection to that pop culture, to those characters, to those video games and movies, you can feel so much more invested in the film because you can relate to what's going on in it. The movie does have some decent comedy in the script. Some of it's a little cheesy or whatever, but it was fun, and I think that that's the key thing about this movie, is it had to stay fun. All of the performances are honestly really good. I loved Olivia Cooke, I loved Ty Sheridan, Mark Rylance was obviously great, and then Ben Mendelsohn plays the villain, and I really feel like Ben Mendelsohn is sort of having this crazy growth in his career all of a sudden, because he plays a great villain in this movie. And the thing I like the most about his villain is that he feels like a real villain that could exist if something like the Oasis existed, and there was this crazy Easter egg that would get someone all of that wealth. Because basically he's the CEO of the company that's right beneath the company that created the Oasis, and his goal is to get that, because then he would basically control the Oasis and control the economy of the world almost. Spielberg does a phenomenal job in this movie. The cinematography, spectacular. Honestly, it was just great to see Spielberg get back into that old form of making a big budget summer movie that wasn't too serious. It definitely is just sort of this big, fun adventure that you sort of hop on the roller coaster and enjoy while you're on it. He had some really great long takes. He handled the heavy CGI sequences, or really just pure animation sequences, extremely well, and I was very impressed, because I feel like a lot of people kind of have lost some faith in Spielberg. He used to be arguably, and I think many people would say, if not the greatest, one of the greatest directors that has ever lived. And I think in recent times, most people have sort of lost that. They sort of feel like he's kind of gotten a little bland or a little less interesting in the films that he makes. But I really enjoyed this one, and I think that it sort of brought him back to that old sort of 90s Spielberg style. I really think that this movie just captured the essence of what it's like to be someone who plays games and loves pop culture and has friends that you've never met in person, but are some of the best friends that you have in your life just because you play video video games with them online. I thought that it captured that very well, and as someone who has had those experiences, I was able to really relate and enjoy that aspect of the film. However, I think that that's also one of the weaknesses of the movie, in that if you aren't super into pop culture, if you don't play video games, if you don't love movies, if you've never had those experiences, it definitely would be harder to relate to the story of the film, because you would just look at it and be like, that's kind of weird. And granted, you could say it's just the future, so maybe you'd be able to get it, but you still wouldn't get that full fulfillment of the story. If you don't care about all these pop culture references and all this stuff, and it doesn't bring back that nostalgia for you, then it's sort of missing the mark on you, and I feel like that's sort of pushing a certain group of an audience away from this film, which is disappointing because I think the film is enjoyable without those things, just not as enjoyable. But the biggest issue with this movie really revolves around the script for me, and it's the fact that while this film is packed with nostalgia and references and all these licenses to different games and pop culture and movies and all that stuff, it just sort of misses the mark in making characters for us to care about, and I think that that's a big issue. The real life sequences, during them most of the time I was like, man, I'd rather be watching them in the Oasis right now than in real life. Certain real life sequences in the movie do work really well, and I did enjoy, but a lot of them just sort of feel like, I feel like it'd be cooler if we were just in the Oasis again. And that's because the film doesn't invest a lot into the characters. The characters are very bland and standard for the type of film they're in. They do a lot of things that you would expect those characters to do. And it's not that they're bad. Like I said, the performances are really good from everyone. It's more just, I think, in the script, they needed to add more depth to these characters and give them more time to sort of grow, because instead we just sort of get these very baseline sort of details about the characters, and that's all we have to work off of, and if we don't care about them, then that's just that. We don't care. And I think that it needed more growth for the characters. Even though the film was still enjoyable, that was definitely the biggest weak point for me, is they just felt like bland, standard characters that were put into this movie that has these massive action set pieces and huge cool effects. I'm gonna give Ready Player One a B. If you're a fan of video games, if you're a fan of pop culture, if you like those types of things, definitely go check this movie out, because you'll have a lot of fun with it. Because that's what I had. I didn't expect a in-depth story with great characters or anything. I just wanted a fun, big action movie, and that's what I got. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of Ready Player One, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and I hope to see you guys later.